He lost his first 10 fights, every single one. They called him shy, non-athletic, a truck driver's son who could barely afford lessons. Fast forward 6 years, he's standing as undefeated world karate champion, training alongside Bruce Lee, teaching Steve McQueen. But here's what nobody saw coming. The kid who lost 10 fights in a row would go on to fight Bruce Lee in the actual Roman Colosseum, build an empire teaching celebrities, star in a TV show watched by over 14 million people a week, and become the subject of billions of internet jokes that made him more famous than any movie he ever made. His brother told him, as a kid, that he wouldn't live to see 28. He was right, and Chuck spent the next 50 years making sure nobody forgot him. These are 10 documented moments from Chuck Norris's life. Let's begin. Number 1. Lost his first 10 fights, then never lost again. 1964, Chuck Norris enters his first karate tournament. He's 24, freshly discharged from the Air Force, running a small karate school in Torrance, California, needing to prove himself. He loses, badly. Second tournament, he loses again. Third tournament, another loss. Over the following years, opponents including Alan Steen, Joe Louis, and Louis Delgado all beat him. By early 1968, the documented record shows 10 losses. His own students started asking why they should keep training under a man who kept losing. Norris kept showing up anyway. Then on the 24th of November 1968, Norris faced Louis Delgado again, the same man who'd handed him one of his losses earlier that year. This time Norris won, capturing the professional middleweight karate championship. From that day forward, by his own competitive record, Chuck Norris did not lose another official tournament fight. He defended the title for 6 consecutive years and retired undefeated in 1974, with a final competitive record commonly cited as 183 wins, 10 losses, and 2 draws, with every one of those 10 losses coming in his first 4 years of competition. Black Belt magazine named him Fighter of the Year in 1969. The man who lost 10 straight fights became a world champion who never lost again. Number 2, trained with Bruce Lee. In 1967, at the All-American Karate Championships in Madison Square Garden, Norris competed while Bruce Lee gave an exhibition demonstration. The two men met, talked long into the night about martial arts philosophy and training methods, and that conversation marked the start of a real friendship and training partnership. For roughly 2 years afterward, Norris trained alongside Lee, including sessions at Lee's home in the Los Angeles area, working through conditioning, sparring, and technique. Norris has spoken in interviews about philosophical differences between the two men's approaches to kicking and about the mutual respect that came out of training together, describing Lee's speed as something he never fully matched, even in friendly sparring. That friendship, and Lee's own eventual move to Hong Kong to build his film career, set up one of the most famous action sequences in martial arts cinema. Number 3, Steve McQueen pushed him toward acting. In the early 1970s, while running his karate school, Norris counted Steve McQueen, already one of the biggest movie stars in the world, among his students. McQueen had specifically sought out serious martial arts training rather than Hollywood-style stage fighting. The two became friends, and it was McQueen who first suggested Norris try acting, pushing past Norris's own doubts about having no formal training or experience. McQueen helped connect him to acting classes and encouraged him through his earliest harshly reviewed roles, reportedly telling Norris not to worry about critics, since what mattered was the audience. Norris's first major starring role came with 1977's low-budget Breaker, followed by 1978's Good Guys Wear Black, made for roughly $1 million and grossing many times that, launching Norris as one of the first successful homegrown American martial arts film stars. McQueen died in 1980 before Norris's career reached its peak, but their friendship and Bruce Lee's remained tied together. Norris and McQueen both served as pallbearers at Bruce Lee's memorial service in 1973. Number 4, the illegal fight in the Roman Colosseum. In 1972, while filming Way of the Dragon in Rome, Bruce Lee wanted the film's climactic fight staged inside the actual Colosseum rather than a studio recreation, despite filming inside the ancient monument being strictly prohibited. According to accounts of the production, Lee's crew arranged access to shoot there regardless, with a minimal crew working under tight, discrete conditions. The resulting fight scene between Lee and Norris, largely wordless, built entirely around the physical choreography of two real martial artists, became one of the most celebrated fight sequences in martial arts film history, and the film became one of the highest-grossing Hong Kong films of its year. It was essentially Norris's first major film role. In later interviews, when asked whether the fight was real, Norris consistently said they had trained and sparred together for years, but in an actual fight, Lee's speed would have been the deciding factor. Number 5, his brother's death in Vietnam. In 1970, Norris received the news that his younger brother, Wieland Norris, had been killed in action in Vietnam, serving with the 101st Airborne Division. Norris has described the news as more devastating than anything he experienced in competition. Wieland died during the prolonged, costly fighting around Firebase Ripcord in mid-1970, a battle that received relatively little public attention at the time, given the broader exhaustion with Vietnam War coverage in the American press that year. Norris has written and spoken publicly for decades about missing his brother and about the family's grief, and Wieland's memory would go on to directly shape one of the defining choices of Norris's film career. Number 6, dedicating Missing in Action to Wieland's memory. In 1984, Norris starred in Missing in Action, playing a former prisoner of war who returns to Vietnam to rescue American POWs left behind, a film Cannon Films took on despite a general industry reluctance around Vietnam War stories at the time. The film was a commercial success, spawning 2 sequels, and Norris dedicated the films to his brother's memory, with an on-screen dedication to Wieland Norris appearing in the films. Norris has spoken about how meaningful it was to see audiences respond emotionally to the film's portrayal of American POWs finally being brought home, and about how the trilogy became a lasting way to keep his brother's memory present in his public life. Number 7, Walker, Texas Ranger. Beginning in 1993, Norris starred as Cordell Walker in the CBS series Walker, Texas Ranger, a show blending martial arts action with old-fashioned law and order storytelling. The show ran for 9 seasons and over 200 episodes, drawing millions of viewers weekly at its peak and airing in syndication around the world for years afterward. Critics were frequently unkind to the show's tone and writing, but its audience loyalty was real and sustained across nearly a decade on air, making Norris one of the most recognizable faces on American television throughout the 1990s, and setting up an unexpected second act in pop culture that nobody could have predicted at the time. Number 8, the Chuck Norris facts phenomenon. In the mid-2000s, a satirical internet meme format built around absurd, exaggerated claims of Chuck Norris's toughness spread rapidly online, moving from niche internet forums to mainstream email forwards, websites, and eventually pop culture at large, amplified further by recurring comedic bits referencing Walker, Texas Ranger on late-night television. Jokes like, Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down became a genuine global phenomenon, translated and localized in numerous countries, with local celebrities substituted into the same joke format. Rather than resist the joke, Norris embraced it publicly, releasing an official book of Chuck Norris facts and using the sudden cultural relevance to reach an entirely new, younger generation that had never watched his films or his TV show. It's a genuinely unusual case of a public figure becoming more famous through a joke about himself than through any single piece of his own actual work. Number 9, a childhood shaped by poverty and instability. Carlos Ray Norris was born on the 10th of March, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma, the eldest of 3 boys. His father struggled with alcoholism and worked a series of jobs, and the family moved frequently during Norris's childhood due to financial instability. Norris has described himself in those years as shy, introverted, and an unremarkable student, embarrassed by his family's circumstances. His parents eventually divorced during his teenage years, and Norris, as the eldest son, took on responsibility helping support his mother and younger brothers. After graduating high school, he joined the United States Air Force, where he was stationed in South Korea, and first encountered Korean martial arts training, the beginning of the discipline that would eventually define his life. His mother, Wilma Norris, lived to be over 100 years old, and Norris has spoken about her enduring faith and support through the family's hardships, including the loss of Wieland in Vietnam, as a defining influence on his own resilience. Number 10, 6 consecutive years as undefeated world champion. After capturing the professional middleweight karate title in November 1968, Norris held it without a competitive loss through his retirement from competition in 1974, a run widely documented across karate publications and Hall of Fame records from the era, including recognition from Black Belt magazine and induction into karate's Hall of Fame in multiple categories over the years. He retired undefeated, not due to injury or loss, but because, by his own account, there was no one left to convincingly challenge him at that level. He went on to train hundreds of students to black belt, open multiple martial arts schools, and later develop his own martial arts system. In interviews throughout his life, Norris has consistently credited discipline and refusal to quit over natural athletic talent, pointing back to those first 10 losses as proof that persistence, not raw ability, built the rest of his career. Lost his first 10 fights, trained with Bruce Lee, was pushed into acting by Steve McQueen, fought on film inside the actual Roman Coliseum, lost his brother in Vietnam and carried his memory through an entire film trilogy, starred in a television show watched by millions every week for nearly a decade, became a global internet joke and turned it into a second career, grew up in poverty with an unstable home, and held a world championship title for 6 consecutive years without a single loss, 10 documented moments. Some people are born with talent, others are born with advantages. Chuck Norris was born with neither, by his own account, but he had something that mattered more. He refused to quit, even after losing 10 fights in a row, even when people told him he should. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person who appreciates real stories about people who refuse to give up. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week we're covering another figure who proved that where you start doesn't decide where you finish. Let us know in the comments if there's a specific classic actor whose real story you want told. Until then, take care.